I don't mind recording it if you want.
Yeah. This from the Student Academic Board, the meeting will be recorded. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Vikas. I thank everyone to join today's workshop session. The workshop today focuses on secrets to writing a brilliant SOP. Today we have with us Vikas Kumar, our very own IIT Guwahati alumnus, as our instructor for this workshop. I would like to thank him for giving us time to impart some important points about SOP writing. SOP writing is an important part in the application process, so it's important to know some points what institutes look for. Mr. Vikas Kumar is currently a PhD student at University of British Columbia. He is also an UBC SERB fellow over there. He is also an alumnus of IIT Guwahati. He graduated as an MSR student at the School of Energy Science and Engineering. He has also worked as a research fellow at IIT Roorkee. Currently, his research work basically focuses on process engineering, where he is trying to improve the communication between the microbes and also improve the reactor performance in terms of microbial yield, specifically focusing on methanogenic archaebacteria. So once again, I would like to thank Vikas for joining us today, and I hand over to you for the session to begin.
Thank you, Angana, for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Vikas Kumar. So today's workshop basically focuses on the SOP, statement of purpose writing. So when I will going to share my views and my experiences when I was preparing for the application, and when I was also preparing for the scholarship. So how I prepare the SOP. SOP is, as Angana already mentioned, that it's one of the uh, important constituent, ingredient for your successful. Uh, all right, someone is entering. Okay, so for the successful application to the graduate school. So this workshop basically focuses mostly on the STEM students, but other students uh, from the from the history, or from the art and performing art and other branches can also be benefited with, because of some concept, but it's largely focused on the STEM. So she already introduced myself. So next, moving forward, today's date is 9 in India, but here still is 8 March. So moving forward, we have the question, grad school requirements. So when we talk about the grad school requirement, what are the things that we need to have beforehand? First of all, we should have a transcript. So that is, so I will going to give you a basic idea when I was preparing for the grad school. So need to have a transcript. This transcript is not a normal transcript. We should have a sealed transcript with stamp that we will going to use along with our application. So before you plan for applying for any grad school, you should already have a sealed transcript. You can get it from the university, and you have to send this along with your application. Sometimes universities send it to the university directly, but to be on a safer side, you can take that sealed transcript with you and send it along with your application. And also the grades as we all know, grades are important constituent to get selected for the grad school. Next important thing is standardized test score, that GMAT and GRE score. Basically, GMAT, GRE scores are not usually required for PhD application. If you have a good research background, you can always showcase that thing, and then definitely your uh, hiring committee can consider that. But in some schools, like in USA, some schools definitely they require GRE score specifically for specific subjects. So which you have to be very specific. For example, if you're applying for physics or computer science, and there's a two type of GRE, I think you must know it. So you have to be very specific when you apply for it. And English requirement, most of the university require English, full, like English is one of the important document that you should be having with you. So when I was applying for the, I'm just going to share my experience when I was applying for the university. I asked for the waiver, so they waived my application with this medium of instruction certificate. I have downloaded that instruction certificate from IIT Guwahati website. So they say if your video of instruction basically is, if your last 2 years is from the university where the medium of instruction and communication and examination is strictly in English, then they can waive your English requirement. But not all the schools in USA. Some schools, some top Ivy leagues, basically they still require you to have English requirement test. The two tests basically which are very famous is TOEFL and IELTS. But when we talk about TOEFL score, I'm just giving you a very quick description on like how how TOEFL and IELTS are different. IELTS scores are basically used by most of the European nations, and also most of the universities from US. However, the TOEFL score is applicable, as it's been accepted by top four universities at the in the US. So my suggestion would be go for TOEFL. To go for TOEFL if you wanted to go for English requirement exam, because that way TOEFL is acceptable everywhere, but IELTS is acceptable in most of the cases, but not in top four US schools. So definitely you should go for TOEFL, not for IELTS. Next important thing that you should have is letter of recommendation. Sometimes 2 to 5 recommendation are required from your employers, co-worker, tutors, and other mentors. So you need to be very good with your colleagues. So when you apply for University of Oxford, in University of Oxford, you should at least have, I think, 4 or 5, sometimes 4 to 5 recommendation you require. 2 or 3 basically from your supervisor, employer, and 2 of them, or maybe I'm not sure if it is 2 or 3, but they are always 4 to 5 between that. So you need to have 2 recommendation from your colleague. They'll write for you. So you need to maintain a very good relationship with your colleagues as well, because at one point of time you might need their recommendation, and they should you know they should be able to give you a not a lukewarm recommendation, a good recommendation that describes your overall personality. So we have CV and resume. Generally, CV is basically a larger format. Basically, like you'll have a detailed understanding on what you wanted to write, like in curriculum by TAVE or CV you call it. Resume is a is a concise form, but when you apply for a grad school, CV is basically more important in terms of when you apply for when you have a CV, you will have a description. So this is actually gives the reader a general understanding that that CV gives a broader picture of your personality. So that's all. But that's why CV is required. But make sure in CV you should not write irrelevant information. The information that is required only for the grad school, you should always keep that information in your CV. Do not write like I in class first standard I was participated in dance and I won the prize. These type of information are not basically required when you apply for a grad school. So that next thing that you have to consider is personal statement. Personal statement that is the topic of today's discussion. We will discuss it very in detail. So this is to be make sure that this document is often your one and only opportunity to show your writing skill. So this is just to be very clear, precise, very nicely written. There is sometimes you have to write a portfolio as well, and portfolio basically is like your some artistic stuff. So generally this is required for artistically oriented programs such as Masters of Fine Arts and like anthropology, history, and something like related uh, uh, to arts and performing arts. Now, before discussing the statement of purpose, we should know the basic difference between the personal statement versus statement of purpose. Personal statement basically talks about your past, and generally it is required by the undergrad student when we apply for undergrad application. And SOP generally is a link between the past and the future goal. So when my niece, basically she's preparing for undergrad, so she's willing to apply for Harvard University, so she's planning to write about their, write about her past experiences. Some people talk about that what they have learned so far in their life, and then what made them a person they are right now. So you need to be very careful when you talk about personal statement or a statement of purpose. You should know the difference. When your brother or your junior might wanted to apply for uh, for the school, they should always have to write a personal statement because they do not have experience. But when we talk about SOP, you need to connect the past and the future. It means that your past experiences, how they helped you to build the future. Like, for example, you are doing some research, or so you are doing some kind of some work experience or something you have done in past, some volunteer experience, that how that experience will lead you to become a person that you are today, and how it will going to help you for your future goals. That is what exactly you have to consider when you talk about the SOP. And also it is also called a research statement or letter of intent. It talk about your, as I said, it's talk about your career path, interest, professional contribution, goal, and driving force behind particular programs. Now, when we talk about SOP, what should be the motivation before you start writing the SOP? What you should have, you should think like a scientist. Your research is your purpose. That is all your motivation when you start writing about on SOP. So when I was writing SOP, I was thinking that I'm a very big researcher, and I have to showcase my research and tell them that I'm good enough for the school. You don't need to brag negatively, like I am the best, I am the only one. But you have to be like humble, and at the same time you have to think um, like a like a researcher, uh, like a like Einstein, right? So your personal information should be related to your scientific approach and how you will enrich the scientific world. That is how your personal information should talk about. So on a whole, you should know that the motivation for writing SOP is like, you whatever you have, it should link together and give a story. If it is a story, if it is readable, people will like it. If it's not something that makes sense, like for example, someone is doing something in manufacturing engineering, some in car manufacturing, and suddenly in next paragraph of his SOP he start talking about maybe maybe biological research or maybe some coding. That makes no sense. So if there is no connection, it makes sense like the person is not clear about their goal and he's just jumping here and there. Which is why you should be very focused when you write SOP. So who reads your application? Your STEM faculty read your application, and each departments and different universities have its own review processes. When you start writing the SOP, you should trust yourself and your dream, that whatever you are thinking, what your dreams are, basically will going to help you to build your future. And then you have to just celebrate your work in your SOP. Write it like, okay, I have done this, I have done that, and at one point I will be going to become a successful person who will going to do something good for the world. That is how you were celebrating your SOP when you're writing SOP. So I have divided my SOP writing into 5 parts. SOP strategies first is we'll talk about the introduction. So you will always have to divide your overall SOP into 5 paragraphs. Each paragraph talks about different sections that we will be discussing here right now, but you have to understand that I was talking. Yeah, when I was, you have to understand that your SOP should not be more than 2 pages. If it is like very long SOP, then people will get bored. So you have to do everything in two pages, which means that your one paragraph should be 4 to 5 lines. Each paragraph should be 4 to 5 lines, and so on and so forth. So when you say when talk about this, so you should have you have to first uh, uh, paragraph, you have to introduce yourself. You have to talk about your affiliation and then letting them know what you wanted to do. Like for example, you're applying for a graduate position, or you're applying for undergraduate position, PhD, postdoc, or PhD in civil engineering. You wanted to apply a PhD in environmental engineering, or maybe computer sciences, and so on and so forth. When you go for the second paragraph, you have to talk about your academic background, like how your academic background basically help you to choose this career. Like as I said, introduce to your previous study and how it improved your skills, and mentioning your academics and your background which made you pursue this as a major degree, why you wanted to do it. So academic background also should also help, or how to say that, link the link the your SOP, like it should have a connection. And next third step should be talk about the your current research, your project, your internship, and how it going to help you to build your future as like in the particular field. Everything should be linked. Every story should have something to uh, specifically focus on your current goal. And yeah, for sure, next fourth paragraph should be research and achievement. You should basically talk about your research finding, if you have some publications, if you have good curricular activities and achievement. So the purpose of this, it should be that you are an active person. If like you have no conferences, nothing, you have no paper, that means you are a boring person, and you might not be able to fit with the current scenario. In the sense, you should have all the activity. You should take care of your research and also your extracurricular activity. But extracurricular activity doesn't mean you should start talking about your dancing skills and your acting skills and stuff like that. It should be relevant. It should be relevant to the field that that we are focusing on, a statement of purpose basically. And the last note, basically you have to thank them and tell them with which professor you wanted to work for. So you have to understand one thing. Like in final note, I wanted to, like in the fifth note, I wanted to tell you that in this statement of purpose writing, the overall goal is just to see whether you are useful to the university, whether you are useful to the professor or their lab or not. So that is the overall goal of your writing, SOP writing. It's not like you are a very good researcher, but you are of no use to the lab. Basically, for example, you mention your professor's name, and that professor doesn't work on something, you just talk about, he works in maybe environmental engineering, and you work on maybe environmental management, and his lab doesn't work on that field. So whosoever you are, if you are very good, excellent, brilliant person, everything you fulfill, you will not going to get admitted, because that you are not a person who they are looking for. So you have to be very careful. So you have to do your background study, your home study, to find your professor, and then apply apply to the to the university. Usually what happens is, some university, but how I applied was, I first approached the professors. I wrote email to all the professors, different professors. There are two modes. One mode is just, you can just see if in website if professor is hiring student, and then you can apply to the main channel, and then they will transfer your application to the professor, and then the professor will see your application and then read it and do stuff, and then we'll ask you to, whether he wanted you in his lab or her lab or not. But my suggestion would be, you should first talk to your supervisor, the one you wanted to work with. If you talk to them, they will know whether or not, like, in my case, I talked to my supervisor, and then she said, okay, I think you're a good student and I can take you. And she took my interview as well. Everything was before I applied for UBC. So before applying to UBC, I had all the interviews, discussion, my project, my project discussion, my PhD, what I will be going to work on, what I have worked so far, and so on and so forth. And later she said, okay, you can go and apply for the apply from the university channel. And then I was like, okay, I can start doing that. But she said, okay, now you have to fulfill all the required, needs that university expect you to have, scores, English requirement, and transcripts, and blah, and so on and so forth, which I already have discussed in first slide. All those things, like your CV and everything. So let's talk about how we were going to write uh, uh, basically the structure of your SOP. So there are certain rules that you should follow, which will definitely going to help you to have a better CV. You should always have a 2-page target. Do not copy your resume. Don't do that. It's a blunder. If you do that, it's like it's the worst thing that you'll do with your stuff, um, with your SOP. Next is, many universities use plagiarism softwares. Many universities, they do that. So never copy it. If you copy someone SOP, and if it is copied, or if it is plagiarized, then definitely your application is right away rejected, and you may be banned to apply for like next year or so. They will definitely do not accept this thing, and do not expect their students to do this type of misconducts. So also, do not compare your content with your friends applying for social sciences, humanities, law, medicines, healthcare program. They have a very different SOP writing style. SOP writing stuff is completely different, and applying to STEM. STEM is completely different. It's more technical. Personal information should be minimized. Do not talk about you. No one, like, I'll be very honest, no one care who you are. They do not care if you are a girl or a boy. They do not care where you're coming from. No one cares. What they care about is, they care about how you can going to help them to solve the problem, or whatever they are currently working on. And do not use I, like, I have done that, I have done that, I am good, I am best. Because if you do I, because they already know you're writing your SOP, it's they already know it's you, right? So you do not have to overuse the word I when you write your SOP. Do not use uh, not, don't, wasn't, like some informal English word. This is what we call it, the yawn effect. Some people just talk about, about how passionate they are in science. I love science, I live science, I'm a future Einstein, I work for this many hours. They do not expect you to write that. You have to prove them. You have to give some justifications, without saying that you love science. If you love science, you should have done something relevant in that field. Okay, if you are doing something scientific, you are doing some very complex experiment which takes maybe a year to develop, to build, or maybe some coding which might take a very long time to develop. So you do not have to brag about it. You have to just show your stuff, show your data sets, so show your papers and whatsoever you have, whatever experience you gain. Maybe do not talk like this. This is very boring for the reader. And there is also yada yada effect, which means like, which makes no sense, because I want to change the word knowledge is power, something like, very relevant word. Do not use don't, can't, won't. These words are not a very scientific word, so we should not use those words. And we should not use phrases which makes no sense, like knowledge is power, I wanted to change the world. I mean, these type of writing basically will make the reader that he's just bragging. He's not a genuine person. We all know that knowledge is power and stuff. So just don't be a poet when you talk about STEM. You have to be like very technical. And one important thing that I have also done when I do the SOP writing, and also when I write paper, I also do that. I have in MS Word we have a read it loud option. So when you read it loud, that they have three David and three other people. They will read for you, whosoever you like. You can just select their voice, and they will, and also the speech of this speech of the speed of the speech, and then will read it for you. Once they read it for you, when you hear it, you have a better uh, understanding. Yes, basically, what I have write what I was writing is different. What you are hearing is different. It sounds very not very nice. So then you have to change it. So this is very important. This is very useful. It's always helped me when I write my paper. So when I write a paper, just start, read it loud, and just keep listening to the article. Then I feel like sometimes I repeat two words two times, and then it reads it, so it sounds very weird. Then I just stop it right away and then change it. That's how I write a better uh, you know research writing. So you can always use that for your SOP as well. And give yourself a distance and come back, which means that when you write your proposal or a statement of purpose, you just write it down, wait for a week, read it again, and then you will know that what you have written basically is not very nice. So when you give yourself a distance and then you come back, then you will have a better, you can judge your paper, your writing, best. So yeah, I have some list of scholarship which I will going to maybe send to Angana, then she can maybe share it with you. One of them which I applied, it was SERB, Government of India scholarship. Is OPDF scholarship. So they have scholarship for maybe 12 universities in the world, including Stanford, Rice, University of British Columbia, and other. They have five. They used to take five students from each universities, and they used to pay your tuition fees, your living expenses, and your travel one time. It's a good scholarship, but you have to come back and then work for your nation. It's a good scholarship, and now it's becoming very competitive. Uh, so, and when I applied it, I don't know how I get it, but I think I had good score, in the sense I had a good um, master's scores and papers, which helped me to get the scholarship. I think if you work that way, in the same way, you can always get the scholarship. This is a very prestigious, good scholarship. There is one of these scholarship is like a we call it like what is that scholarship called as Fulbright scholarship. There is a website called findaphd.com, where you can find different paid positions, PhD positions. There you'll have a different uh, um, you know funded PhDs positions. They have different topics. You read the topics and see If it is relevant to your field, you can apply there, talk to the professor. If he likes you, he can definitely take you in. So it's a very easy, very nice way to get the PhD. There is very popular website, scholarshiptestpositions.com. This A star one, this is for Singapore. So when you apply for NUS, and they have like different university, NUS and there is NTU. For those good schools, you can always apply these scholarships. So good. This is also very good scholarship, and these are other scholarship. There's one COUS scholarship that's for the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. It's in Dubai, I guess. It's like in UAE. So it's a good scholarship. They pay you very good, and most of the scholarship basically they pay you very well. So my suggestion is, when you apply for a grad school, always prepare for your scholarship as well, because once you have a scholarship, life would be easier. You can always focus your research more than other people. I have seen in my lab some people have do not have scholarship, so they have to do a lot of teaching assistant jobs, like a TA jobs, teaching and marking and stuff like that. And there's some people work outside, because living in different nation is not always very, very. It sounds pleasing. It's not very nice when you are doing PhD and also you have to work. So it's good to have scholarship. Some professors, they, when you apply for masters and PhD, they pay you um, some money, which is sufficient for you to survive. But when you have family, it's very difficult for you to survive with that money. So you need to have your own scholarship. You are independent. I am, like in my lab, I'm independent. I'm not, no one is paying me, so I'm like more independent to do what research I wanted to do, because some of the research are funded. So you are only allowed to do that particular topic of research. You cannot do whatever you want to do. Like, for example, I've explored something which is not the part of the research, ongoing research. I explored something new because I was not paid by any funding agency. So that's how it helped me. So that's my humble request. Please go for it. Try for good scholarships. Thank you for your patience and attention. I am now open for discussion. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Vikas, for this wonderful workshop. We had quite a huge number of participants with us today, so like we can understand how valuable this information will be for
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah. So for the participants, if you have any questions, this would be a good opportunity. You can ask your doubts and queries which you have. You can raise your hands. I can call on you to ask the questions. Or you can drop a message in the chat box as well. Okay, Shubham Banerjee. Yeah, you can ask your question.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Shubham.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question that do we really need publications in a good journal? Like how many publications or something like that for getting a chance?
Okay, so that's a good question. Shubham, basically what happens is when you apply for good schools, they expect you to have you know a good research. Basically, are you talking about master's research, MS? Like, I wanted to apply for
Yes, sir.
master's, or master's. I
No,
wanted
no,
to
sir.
apply for master's or a
PhD.
PhD. PhD.
PhD, sir.
All right. So when you apply for a PhD, it is expected to, it's not they will not ask you to have a paper, but it's good to have a paper to have a good impression, or you have a good, and how you will going to prove that you are a good researcher. If you have a good paper, at least one will definitely going to help you to get your position. But I've seen some students, like in our lab also. So I've seen some student, like they don't have any scholarship, they don't have any papers, but their thesis work was really nice. and that's all. That's all important. And also on top of it, I wanted to maybe add to that. When I was applying for my schools, most of the professor I had interviewed by 4 professors, like a face-to-face interview. So they ask me whether or not you have some analytical understanding, like do you know how to use HPLC machines, or do you know how to use like particular machine, like in our field, like I'm from environmental engineering, so we use like HPLC spectrophotometry. Do you know how to do this like different instruments, GC machines? Do you know how to operate GC machines, and some other important thing. So you should always have those things in hand. Like when you write your resume, you should always mention that instruments, that instrument handle HPLC, GCMS, FTIR. There are different instruments when we in environmental engineering, and I'm sure in all the field you have a different instrument for the analysis. So you should always add that as well in your resume. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? You can type your questions in the message box as well. Okay, Mahesh. Yeah.
Thank you, Vikas. Thank you for this wonderful lecture. I'm Mahesh Mahajan. I'm from MSI Energy Department. My question is a little bit simple. So how much this English TOEFL score, IELTS score matters for application for a PhD? Does it really matter that much compared to our research proposal and our publications? Yeah, please.
Yeah, good question. Mahajan, basically, different schools have different system. Like when you talk about when you wanted to go to US, so in the US they expect you to have some scores. But to be honest, like IIT have a good reputation. I've seen that people applied for English waiver. Some of my friends, their waiver was rejected. But when you are from IIT, irrespective of which IIT you are, IIT, the word IITs have some brand value, so they expect when you do that, they like. When I was discussing, I also applied for using this medium of instruction certificate. So they waived my application, so I didn't give my English requirement test. So just imagine, before giving English requirement test, my professor agreed to take me in. She took all the interview and stuff. Then I planned for English requirement, but then they waived that application. So for some of the university they can waive, and even if you're from IIT, so it really helps, to be honest. But to be on a safer side, in US, some university they will expect you to have scores, because when I was applying, I was planning to apply for US. I knew that I need to have a score beforehand before applying to the university. So it's good to have score, like at least it's 7.5 at band, basically they expect. But I'm sure every university have a different criteria. They always mention that minimum score is this much required. Different university have different system. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It helps. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Anyone else? Yeah, Aditya.
Hello. Very good morning, sir. I am Aditya
Hi,
Gupta,
Aditya.
a first year student from MNC branch. Actually, I have a doubt in the academic background section, like from where we have to include in our SOP, and could you please elaborate a bit more, like what to include and how?
What to include in your academics? That is your question?
Yes, yes.
All right. So when I just go back to the slides. Maybe this is not working. Okay. So when we talk about academics, this is the first introduction. Then you have to write academic background. In academic background, basically you have to talk about your skills. What you like. For example, you're applying for masters, for example. Then what you have done so far. Like I have done my B.Tech in biochemical engineering, where I have learned to solve these problems. And like for when I was applying for uh, for PhD, I also mentioned that like in my undergrad, I've worked with bioremediation, which is basically environmental side of it. So when you talk about environmental, uh, so I make a story in such a way that uh, I was always focused with the environmental, the environmental side of my degree. Was always my work, my mind was always engaged towards environmental side of engineering. So I have done something in environmental in my undergrad. I've mentioned that my project, like you do in undergrad also, you do some project, don't you? You do some project, right, Aditya?
Yeah, we will be.
Yeah, you will be going to do some project definitely, and if not, you'll be going to do some maybe some internship. So you have to mention that you on the subject, basically on what subject, like for example like you have to make a story. As I said, you have to make a complete story, a good package which tells which you have to sell yourself. How you will going to sell yourself? You have to just make in such a way that you can able to sell it very well to the reader. Because because this, just understand this thing, you are not talking to them directly. No one is talking to them directly. Your first interaction is your SOP or your or your cover letter. So it should be crispy. There should be no grammar mistake. If there is a grammar mistake, you just expect it to be like get rejected right away. Ask your friends, ask people to read it for you. Use Grammarly. We have Grammarly. It's very wonderful software. Use Grammarly and other stuff. Please, before you submit it to the university, just read it. Get it done to with plagiarism software. Turn it in and maybe do this uh, Grammarly. And also uh, about your academic, as I said, you have to sell yourself. How you will sell yourself, you have to know. You should know that what like for example, Aditya wanted to go in maybe in computer sciences, then he should link and he should do internship and do stuff that basically give a storyline, right? How you are interested, how you became, or maybe you develop your own some small software or something. You have to sell yourself, right? Yeah, that's it. There's another question. What is
Yeah.
that?
Amritanshu asks that from a master's point of view, will a research intern be better than a generic corporate one?
For a master point of view, will research intern will be better than generic corporate? I didn't understand the question. What exactly does it mean?
I think he meant that in the statement of purpose, like, will it be better if we give a research front instead of like a corporate or an industrial front, I guess. Is that what you're
Uh,
asking, Amritanshu?
maybe you can just Amritanshu, maybe you can just maybe unmute yourself and maybe ask a question. Just elaborate a little bit what you wanted to ask.
Yeah. That's what he's asking.
Okay. All right. I think it's outside. Okay. From the pastor point of view, will research intern will better than the generic corporate one? I mean, it's something, to be honest, something, how to say it, as I said, you have to sell yourself. If you have some corporate experience, research experience, having a research experience is good, good for the lab. But to be honest, let me tell you one thing. My supervisor and like most of the people I've seen like working in engineering, they always crave for people from industry, because industrial people have real knowledge, in the sense the practical knowledge. So they expect you to have, so if you have industrial knowledge, because that means you work in the real environment. In lab scale environment, you might have done something right or wrong. No one knows, right? Some people do some some stupid research as well and then publish it. There are like a lot of people do it. But at the same time, you see that if you work in industry, that means it's a validation that you what you have, that actually it's done. It's already you have done it for the industry. So that's all basically the corporate experience definitely helps if you mention that too. But depends on which field you're applying. If you're going for a very hardcore research, uh, stream, like for example some genetic engineering, something like that. If you're working in a corporate firm where people are working on genetic modification or something like that, then you can definitely talk about it. But if you are work on construction firm, and then you are planning to maybe to like go to maybe like some biological thing, so you'll have to make a link definitely how you're going to help the professor. So it's case by case, depends. But in general, corporate experience for the similar field is actually helpful, and people and professors likes it. Yes, thanks.
Okay, so we can have 2 or 3 more questions because it's already night over there for Vikas. So if anyone has any other questions, they can come forward.
Yes, I do have another question. Mahesh here again.
Yeah.
So, as you're from MSc background, you know the syllabus that we have here is not that much constructive. Does it poses that some challenges over there while applying to PhD? Because, as you said, academic background is really essential. And another question which I have, how to find a PhD position?
That's the whole purpose of this. That's the whole story. Yeah, that's good. That's a good question that you're asking. That I mean, how to get a PhD? Yeah, that's all we are here for. We want a PhD position. Okay, so your first question about the constructive your
Syllabus of
syllabus.
MSR, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Does it have impact?
I get your point. I mean, when I was applying for the university, my supervisor asked me to send the transcript before he planned to, because before she planned to definitely take me. So I applied to 3 university. One of the university was University of Auckland. One of them was one of them is University of British Columbia, and one is NUS Singapore. So there was like positive universities. They give me positive response. So the University of Auckland professor also asked me the same question: if you have studied the environmental biotechnology course. So when you are applying for the like for example, I was in environmental engineering. So my professor wanted to make sure whether or not uh, my research background basically have the required you know ingredients to be our environmental engineer, because my background was biochemical engineering, then masters was energy, then I'm applying for civil engineering, which is under environmental engineering. When you are going up and down like somewhere like a very diverse field, definitely you should have something to prove that you have the basic knowledge, because in masters or PhD they are not expect you to, for example, you're applying for some microbiological lab. So if you don't study the engineering microbiology or microbiology as a course in your undergrad or your masters, then your professor may not be happy about it. So you need to have a course. Or there are today we have a lot of different options. You see, we have Coursera, we have different platforms where you can have.
But are they acceptable?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, they are
Are they credible?
acceptable.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. So for them, for as I said, for them, if you are useful, they can take you. They don't care. But you have where you have studied from. If you have basic understanding, if you have something to show that you have done it. Yeah, but for sure, if you have a good structure in your curriculum, definitely it's going to help you. Uh, it is going to help you to uh, get the position easily. For example, if I'm applying for maybe civil engineering or maybe environmental engineering or maybe computer sciences, so if you have some course which is relevant, then professor will not ask anything. Like for example, if you're applying for civil engineering and if you have done masters or bachelor's in civil engineering, then there is no question, they will not ask you. But when you're applying interdisciplinary, definitely you should have something to show. Thanks.
Okay. And another question.
Mm-hmm.
that I asked you about, like where to find these positions. Like I'm completely naive in this, that's why I'm asking. This question might be basic, but yeah, if you can guide us, that will be better.
So what are you asking? You're asking where I can
Find the positions for PhD.
okay, find the positions for PhD. So okay, so uh, so as I said, you can always look into findaphd.com. There you have a funded positions available. Professor will pay you this much money. This much is the duration of the PhD and blah and blah. They will hire you as a research intern or maybe research associate or research assistant, and then they will convert it to your PhD. That's how they do it. There is one. This is one of the way. The other way is, which is the classical way. What you will do is, for example, you are liking someone's profile, then you will look to that professor's paper, right, research article, and then you will see at the end of the like, for example, you are looking for cancer biology. You look for cancer biology and you see some, you find a very good paper, and you see that the corresponding author, just generally the corresponding author is the professor, basically, who is responsible for all the labs infrastructure and everything. So you can search that professor, make a list, make a Excel file, write the professor's name, university name, his or her email address, and then keep making this list. Like for whatever field you wanted to go, just search that field in Google Scholar, find the papers, get the name, get the professor's name and the email address, and then also you can also always mention that when I was reading your paper was very interesting, and then that let me inclined towards your lab, and then that's how I get to know about you. And all professors, they ask you one question: how do you know me?
Okay.
That was general question. So when I was doing that, I also had the same answer. I said, okay, when I was looking for some papers and I saw your papers, and they got very interested. They were like, oh my god, this person is reading my 5 papers. He read my 5 papers. Like, that's such a nice researcher. you know Everyone wants this thing. That's some kind of buttering, not a buttering, like researcher, they do not like buttering, in the sense a real researcher wants you to be really interested in their field.
Yeah.
Like, when I say that, okay, I've read your 5 papers, this was the when I was, and I related that. I was When I was doing my undergrad or my master's in, and writing, when I was writing this, I got to know uh, uh, I told them that, yeah, basically, this paper helped me in this thing, this paper helped me in this thing, and so on and so forth, in the interview, definitely. But when you write a first cover letter, you can always mention that too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyone else, or else we can conclude today's session? Okay, I guess no one has any other questions. So thank you, Vikas, for this wonderful session. It will be really helpful for most of us over here. And since we had a huge number of participants, we can. Okay, Nandita has a question. Yeah, Nandita, you can unmute yourself and ask.
And also, do not worry if I may not be able to answer you right now. It's not like I'm gone. You can always have my email address. You can always send your questions, and Angana can maybe just maybe have a questions, and then I can just answer them, right?
Yeah. Nandita asks if there is a gap between finishing masters and applying for PhD, is that acceptable?
Uh, yes, it is. I mean, when I was applying for PhD, I finished my masters, and then I had 1 year gap, and then I applied for PhD. I mean, not a gap, basically. I applied there, and then there was other things, but I was working. But in that 1 year, what you have done? Okay, it's okay. She's in noisy place. That's fine. That's fine. So Nandita, basically, you should have what the gap. Basically, what does the gap will uh what you have done in this gap, right? if you have something to show, like if you have done something constructive, then professor may be interested. But to be honest, it's not really a very good idea to just have a very huge gap, like masters and like 4 or 5 years of gap, and then PhD. Then they'll ask you what you have done in 4 or 5 years, and you should have a concrete, you know, answer, a solid, justified answer that what you have done in those 4 or 5 years. And they don't care if you say that, oh, you know what, I was not feeling good, I was having some disease, and so they don't care. To be honest, they don't care. Don't do that sympathy, like don't gain this sympathy. They don't care. No one cares. That's the bitter truth. So if you say that I have one, but you have to show something. I mean, some professors they accept it, but what I have seen so far is like my friends, they applied for something and then they got rejected by something, and then applied to next university. They said, why why did you have the huge gap? And then I don't know, they got rejected. I don't know what was the reason, but I'm suspecting that, to be honest, they don't really, it doesn't really matter to them. Yeah. So I think I answered your question. You just need to have just quickly, you need to have something in between the gap. If not, just maybe just go get some courses, get things done, just to show them that I was working. Actually, I was not inert. I was really active in that time. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Vikas. So these kind of informations are very rare to get to know for most people. So thanks a lot for this informative session. I would like to conclude today's session. Thank you everyone for joining us today and being an audience. So thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, and you have a
Yeah.
wonderful day. Actually, yeah, it's evening here. Yeah, and if you have any questions, you can always email me. I'm gonna have my email address, and please try to be like precise what you are asking. And I'm in 4th year of my PhD, so I need to finish my PhD as well. I mean, I need to have a lot of things are going on, so I might be late in answering the question, but I will answer it once I get the time. And I wish you all the best, to all of you, for your future applications in like in grad schools. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.